Let's get going. Let's get going. Welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon. Maybe even good evening. If that's the case, it's too late for soccer. But welcome to rotopros.com, the best DFS show. My name is Rob, Sir Robert 6, Rad Rob Diamond on Twitter. Welcome. I'm extremely excited if you haven't noticed yet. Today, as a Canadian, is a pretty special day because NHL season's back. So while the cold weather comes with it. I'll take it. As you can see, cold weather doesn't bug me. I love my hockey, so it's great to see NHL regular season back in action. Some massive tournaments tonight. In both actually for the Wednesday slate and for the NHL Opening Night, and I'm really excited. Let's get started. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the Champions League, then we're going to switch over to NHL, and we're going to first go over kind of a beginner's how-to in NHL, how to build cards, what to look for, that kind of thing. And from there, we'll just jump right into the NHL slate. So if you're only really looking for the NHL slate, you may want to tune out, fast forward. If you're only looking for soccer, well, that'll be in the first part here. But yeah, I hope everyone has a really good afternoon and evening this evening. So let's get right at it as usual. Jump into the screen share. There we go. Okay, so Champions League today. Incredible slate. I'm not gonna lie, I've been waiting for this slate in particular has been on my radar from the start, and one of the reasons was last slate yesterday. There weren't any teams that particularly needed to score goals in order to progress further into the tournament. However, today we have a couple games here where teams absolutely need to put the pedal to the metal and floor it and push skywards of 4 goals at least. And if they don't do that, their future in this tournament's clouded, where with 4 goals, they're set. So we may see a couple pushes here this late. I'm pretty excited. Obviously, the first 2 games, I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited that they're not on the main slate. The PSG versus Red Star is going to be an absolute drubbling. It's in Paris, so it's 4 goals minimum. And Moscow's hosting Shellac, and this game should be really, really low scoring in comparison, especially to the Paris game. But maybe a Moscow win again. I'm not sure if anyone read about what was going on in Moscow yesterday following the Real Madrid the loss, or the Real Madrid victory against Real Madrid, excuse me. So yeah, Moscow was basically shut down for the night. But now we get another game here today. They're hosting Shellac from Germany. So like I said, low scoring. I'm not going to be playing obviously the all days or the earlies. I would probably suggest just straight fading it today. There's just no edge unless it's kind of like a showdown, unless you pick that random pointless guy that absolutely nobody's going to have. All the stacks are probably going to look the same, and no one's really going to get ahead on PSG. So I just recommend fading the early slate today. It's not worth it. There's no edge. But yeah, let's jump into the main slate here. Monaco make the quick trip over to Dortmund. Club Brugge goes from Belgium to Spain to play Atletico Madrid. Inter is traveling to PSG in Holland. And Barcelona are going to England to play Spurs in London. Liverpool travel to Napoli in Italy. And Galatasaray make the trip from Portugal to, from Turkey to Portugal to play Porto. So very quickly, actually, you know what? Let's take a quick look at the standings. Because this is what's obviously important. So as you can see, these two are really looking to make a statement on top of each other. Porto's capable of a lot of goals. Galatasaray was very lucky in the first slate to come away with the scoreline that they had. Incredibly lucky. And that was against the Moscow side. So I'm really not looking for Galatasaray to do that great. Porto to make the statement, because if Porto doesn't make the statement, their tournament's basically done. Either of these two teams get a win, Porto's in serious trouble. If both teams draw and they lose, that just means shellac's above them, and then they're tied with Moscow. Now, obviously, they would beat Moscow in tiebreakers, but that isn't – Porto need to win. They're going for the win this game. They're a team you're going to want to target simply for that fact. Where the then you can see again, Inter Milan and PSV are playing now. Basically, the way this is breaking down is that Barcelona won 4-0. Inter Milan beat Tottenham by 1. So if Barcelona beat Spurs and Inter Milan beat PSV Eindhoven, that means Barcelona and PSV and Inter, excuse me, are going to be battling for first and second. The quickest way this tiebreaker is settled is either if they their matches against each other is the first tiebreaker. So whenever they end up playing each other, that'll be a tiebreaker. The second tiebreaker is basically goals for and goals against, whoever has the better plus minus. And so basically whoever beats Eindhoven the worst, I guess that's the way to put it, and if they end up drawing, will end up in first place. So you're going to, again, expect Inter Milan this slate to push it. They're going to need at least 3 or 4 goals if they're going to hope to keep with Barcelona after a draw, because they're not dummies. They're realistic about their chances against a supreme power like Barcelona. So they want to go into the Barcelona game knowing that Barcelona have to win. And it's not them that have to win, because they'll have the edge in tiebreakers, where if they don't beat PSV by enough goals today, Barcelona is going to have basically all the upper hands in tiebreakers. So Inter's going to push it. Another team you're really going to want to target today. And again, same idea. These two teams are both playing weaker sides that were already defeated, but you'll notice both the games were really close. Excuse me. Every Atletico Madrid game is going to be close, but just as close, every Atletico Madrid is going to be a defensive showcase. So they'll never score more than 2 goals, and they'll rarely let in a goal. Obviously, they let one in last slate. But I wouldn't read too deeply that this weekend, or this afternoon, excuse me, against Club Brugge. Now, this is the other big one here, Dortmund and Monaco. Basically, Dortmund know that Atletico are huge favorites here, but at the same time, they know Atletico don't score a lot of goals. And no matter what, Atletico, even when their backs are against the walls in the corner, they kind of got that Jose Mourinho aspect where they're not going to look to push the scoreline ever. So Dortmund has the opportunity here, again, to get that upper hand in the tiebreaker. So when they end up facing each other next slate, it won't be so clear-cut for Atletico Madrid, where if Dortmund fail to get a result today and Atletico Madrid just simply win by another 1-0, they can cruise. They don't have to worry. Dortmund need to win this game by multiple goals, plain and simple. Again, the 3-goal threshold is where they need to end up. And if they don't, they won't have an upper hand going into next week. They know this. They want that upper hand. Excuse me. So those are really 3 teams that you really should be thinking about targeting this slate: Dortmund, Inter Milan, and Porto. The reason for this, like I said, they need to win. They need results, and not only results, but they need a DFS slate-breaking performance result. Each team does. Each team needs 3 goals. And I'm not saying that every team will get 3 goals, but they're going to need it. Probably I would put Dortmund and Inter Milan far ahead in the chance to get 3 goals before I would say Porto would. But yeah, that's a plus minus, excuse me, +3. So yeah, that's just something I really wanted to touch quickly on for today's slate, because just scheduling by itself, even before we consider salaries or anything, is really important to know that these teams need to score numerous goals. So yeah, that's the schedule breakdown. Let's jump right into the slate here. Like I said, I'm psyched. I have all my entries for Champions League today, hockey, soccer in the weekend. I'm ready. I'm psyched. This is a great time to be playing DFS. So yeah, let's just jump right into the keepers. Do a quick rundown here of each team, because I think, again, it's pretty relevant. Now, Harry Kane isn't that great at scoring a Champions League at home, but Tottenham are amazing at scoring a Champions League at home. So I'm not really keen on a Barcelona clean sheet, but at the same time, Barcelona need to win this game. Indisputable, actually, that Barcelona really need to win this game, because if they fail to get a result, Inter Milan's, I don't want to say they're heavily favored. Let's say that. So we can almost assume this is going to happen. Inter Milan's going to win. Barcelona need to win. Now, they don't need to win by a lot, because Inter Milan only won by 1. So Barcelona just need to win a game here, and they'll be able to continue on comfortably as long as Eindhoven doesn't lose by 4 to Inter. So yeah, avoid the Barcelona clean sheet. It's just not a realistic option against Spurs, though. We'll get to Spurs in a second. Semedo is supposed to be starting at left back. 4.3K for any Barcelona player of that caliber is too cheap. And the same can be said for Jordi Alba. I know they're at Spurs, but the fact is that he's not a 4.4 player, 4.4K player, period, at all. He's an elite DFS talent. So I really don't have any issue with either of those two, to be 100% honest, in either format. I don't think Spurs are up for it today. I'll talk about that a bit when we get to Spurs. But yeah, a clean sheet's totally in the offing here, and really a clean sheet, and you're basically looking at 1 times value instantly when you consider just their very most basic foundation of points. So I have no issue with either of those two, and that's that basic foundation is like at the worst possible scenario they end up at 4. But yeah, basically the way I'm approaching this slate is what I call my Liverpool strategy. And what my Liverpool strategy is: Salah cash, Mane GPP. The reason for this is everyone in GPP is still going to own Mane. It's a nice ownership pivot, and he still has just as much upside. Messi cash, Coutinho GPP. There's no reason really, even this slate, to stray away from Messi. He was rested on the weekend. It's 90 minutes. That's a lot more than you can say than basically every midfielder player in Spurs. I'll be super frank. I think Barcelona are absolutely going to run the midfield this game. Spurs are so injured right now that it depends who you cheer for. Maybe it is funny. Maybe it isn't funny. It's not even funny how hurt Spurs are right now. And I would find that normally funny because I don't like Spurs. But yeah, it's pretty bad. So I can't see a situation where Barcelona don't absolutely run rampant here. Probably for 3 goals. Now we'll talk about that in a second here again. But yeah, I think Coutinho, you can even get away with him in cash. 7.9K for Coutinho is just obscenely too cheap. Yeah, there isn't really much more to say than that. 7.9K is just way too cheap for Coutinho. He has way too good a floor. He's basically a James Rodriguez from Bayern. I know he didn't start last slate, but his floor is undeniable. So yeah, I have even no problem with him in cash, but there's no point in taking Messi in GPP unless you're taking 3 or 4 other Barcelona players. So because just by himself, it's just in a GPP, it would be like just taking a player everyone's going to own. It's kind of pointless. Even the likelihood that he scores 35 and nobody else in the entire slate comes anywhere close to him is really highly unlikely. The chance of scoring 35 is obviously pretty good, but nobody else. Coutinho has just as much chance against Spurs to score 35 as Messi does for a massive discount. So yeah, I have absolutely no issue with that. Especially on FanDuel. We'll get over there whenever we get over there. But yeah, yeah, I have no issue with Coutinho. And furthermore, Suarez, when he played for Liverpool, was absolutely like he destroyed Spurs every single time he stepped on the field for Liverpool. So again, 8.4K is probably too cheap for someone of his caliber. Dembele has been playing really, really well. It wouldn't surprise me again to see him get the start and play a full 90 minutes against the Spurs side, who haven't kept clean sheets against all sorts of teams. So there's no reason to suspect here Barcelona can't score at least one, if not two, probably three. And 3 goals, 7.4K. Just a lot of goal upside there for someone who doesn't cost that much. But yeah, that's basically my Barcelona take. I have no issue with them outside their defense for chasing a clean sheet. These guys are too cheap for not to be used in cash, to be honest. They're pushing double digits with a little bit of luck, so I don't mind them at all. But yeah, it's Coutinho in the GPP or cash, and just keep Messi to cash. Just click and walk away. There's lots of cheap options here. Even like Rakitic, there's no reason why you can't use that at 4.9K. Obviously, he doesn't have the kind of set pieces for, but I think that, again, they're going to boss the midfield against Spurs. So to me, there's no reason to not take a risk. 4.9K, especially in a stack, that really opens up a lot of options for a stack, because whenever you put in Dembele and Messi in there, Dembele and Rakitic are 2K too cheap each, probably. So yeah, I think you're getting big savings there in something like that. But yeah, that's my Barcelona take. Tottenham, as I was saying, incredibly hurt. Yeah, they finally decided. FanDuel finally decided to getting around to getting Gazzaniga into the slate now that they're playing Barcelona. But yeah, I have no interest. There's not even a value option at 4.4K. I'm not sure what they're expecting, that Barcelona is not going to shoot the ball. Obviously, Trippier is still an elite player, especially at 5.5K. And with Christian Eriksen definitely out, I would have to assume most of, if not all of the set pieces are going to fall to Trippier. So he isn't even a bad cash play. GPP, I don't really see them being much warrant against Barcelona, but for cash, there's no reason not to. Anyone who plays English Premier League knows what he's going to put on the table here. But yeah, Eriksen's out, Ali's out, Dembele is doubtful. So like Moura and Sung, Lamea probably going to be the 3 attacking midfielders, and then some formation of Sissoko, Deer, and Wanyama, or maybe even Winks. Eric Deer also plays center back, so like it's kind of a wash there. It's tough for me not to say Lamea, because he paid off pretty decently over the weekend, and I think it's very obvious. Again, we're going to get some really serious minutes, so I have trouble not looking at them. Like Harry Kane at 8.2K, all he needs is a penalty shot. Like literally all he needs, and how many times we've seen that. So yeah. My main issue here with, I shouldn't say my main issue. I guess my main issue would be if you're looking for a Barcelona domination. Spurs have won every Champions League game they've played for the past 2 seasons, or won every game at home, Champions League game at home. And they've scored 3 goals in every single game. Now, mind you, that was with an incredibly healthy team. And mind you, double down on the mind you, Harry Kane rarely scores at home in the Champions League. I think it's like a 1 in 3 chance he gets a goal at home. So that's not good enough in comparison to when he scores. 30% of his goals in Champions League have come at home, where the other 70 has been away. So yeah, I'm just not. I'm not crazy about the idea of Spurs against Barcelona, but there's a lot of things to like, including the salaries, the minutes, and they have a really good history. And so does Messi. Messi has been absolutely tearing everyone but Chelsea, really. So I don't know. I have no issue game stacking this game. I don't really see there being a clean sheet. The only issue with that is I think there's a lot of salaries that you're really taking on. But if I was to really highlight a few people not named Messi, it's absolutely Dembele and Coutinho. I think in GPP, these two make a really sneaky stack. Obviously, I want Dembele to play forward there. But yeah, I think that pivots away from a ton of ownership that everyone will be drawn to on Suarez and Messi. So yeah, I just think that's really sneaky from this game. But in terms, I don't really like Spurs. Maybe take Harry Kane if you want to be fancy. But I still see too many homers jumping on him. Maybe Son, he could be jumping in there too. But yeah, I'm just going to stay away from Spurs today, despite their 3-goal potential output. I think Barcelona's recent form hasn't been great, but yeah, that's my first game take. Anyone that wants a prediction, probably 3-1 Barcelona, 3-2 Barcelona. I don't think there's going to be a center back goal. There could be an own goal, and there could be a penalty shot for either team, either for Messi or Harry Kane. But yeah, that's really my take there. So moving on, Bruges making the trip to Atletico. So as I touched on earlier, the Atletico recipe for a game is literally just to not concede. They'll draw 0-0 against a Red Star-esque type of team and have absolutely no issues with it because they didn't lose the game, and they'll wait for another day kind of thing. They play incredible defense, and while they are very talented up front, there's just no ceiling. Griezmann's great. Everyone should know who he is by now. If you don't, just look at some of the World Cup from this summer. Yeah, I think he's excellent on either side in cash. But I wouldn't take him in GPP. I think he makes an excellent Messi pivot for cash if you think Messi's going to have a bad game. The issue is Messi has a ceiling, like a real ceiling. Griezmann will be super, super fortunate to push 20 to 25 fantasy points. And the reason for that is because Atletico Madrid don't score more than 2 goals. And Griezmann is 5'8", forward who doesn't cross the ball except for set pieces. He has an incredible set pieces floor. So like I said, cash, get on the Griezmann. I think if you can somehow figure out a way to get both Messi and Griezmann into the exact same cash card, you're going to be absolutely flying, no question. But yeah, I'm not crazy on that. I'm not crazy on the pair of them, but yeah, just get another check here. No, I'm just not, even against Bruges, the Atletico, I just don't see them pushing scores. So cash, stick to it, but that takes away Diego Costa. Really, he's not a cash play, and he doesn't have a ceiling. He's more likely to take a yellow card than score 2 goals. So yeah. You have to be super fortunate taking an Atletico player in GPP because you also need the rest of the slate to not do as well. Because if enough people in other games score more, get in games with more than 2 goals, you're basically toast. So yeah, that's my Atletico look. Really, I think they're still great here for Jan Oblak. I read a crazy stat today. He's had more clean sheets in the Champions League than he's allowed goals. So like you're basically guaranteed positive uptick here with these guys because Club Bruges isn't good enough. I would assume away from home. They aren't good enough really to suggest any kind of an output, but away from home, I can't imagine there being too much. Philippe Luis is definitely one of the more elite options for the slate. But yeah, it's hard to say which one they're going to start at wingback because Hernandez is excellent, Juan Fran is excellent, Gimenez and Godin are the center backs. Gimenez scored last night, so that's why he has such a high points. But I don't even mind Godin. Like it's kind of my Harry Maguire saying, He's just too cheap. 3.7 is too cheap for Godin. He's such a world-class player. He deserves to be over 4K, and he does have goal upside. Very, very, very limited, but both center backs have set-piece goal upside. Atletico love to cross the ball. That's basically how they do things. Again, their issue is that Griezmann's 5.8. 5'8", excuse me, but that doesn't stop them from whipping balls in an extreme high rate. So Juanfran is probably my favorite because of his salary, and you know he's going to play. And it's hard to say who's going to play between those two, but chances are, even if it's Hernandez, he isn't that cross oriented, where literally everyone else is like mad for the crosses. So I think he's a safe fade. If Hernandez starts, do not play him at all. Period. Don't chase the clean sheet. He's just too much at 5.3K. But if Philip Luis gets to start, lock him in either format. He's pushing double digits without a card. You know how it is. But yeah, jumping into the midfield, Lamar's an easy fade, probably one of the easiest fades in the entire slate. A lot of people are still going to own him because he's a name, but I wouldn't really worry about it. 0.3 isn't really something. It is very indicative of how he's been playing in an Atletico jersey. So I have no interest in Lamar. Now, Koke, on the other hand, if you're not playing Griezmann and you're playing Messi, you have to play Koke. It's not really an option. He takes most of the corners for Atletico. That's where they look for a lot of their goals and production is from corners. So, yeah, I have no issue with Koke whatsoever. Cash is a borderline lock. Like I said, if you're playing Messi and not Griezmann, you basically Koke is a lock. He's the Kroos of this slate, the Toni Kroos of Real Madrid. He's going double digits, hopefully I should say, as long as nothing serious happens. But yeah, other than that, there isn't really too much to take from Atletico in the midfield. I do like Gelson Martins a lot. I just don't see him playing. He's a super speed, though. But yeah, Koke is the spot there. And like I said, Griezmann, just got to keep him in cash. If you're going to play him in cash, though, it's really not suggested you take him and Koke together because, like I said, there's just no ceiling for Atletico Madrid. And if you're taking two players from the same game, you really do need a ceiling if you're hoping for both of them to do exceedingly well. You're just kind of assuming they're both going to do good. That's not the idea here. You want to be taking guys that you know will be great, and Koke is going to be great. Griezmann should be great, but Koke will be. So yeah, that's my cash take, especially for Atletico. Keep them to cash, but yeah. Let's jump over to Bruges really quickly because they do have a few players that you can get away with this because, as I said, Atletico shoot enough and they're not going to score more than 2 goals. So you can get away with this if you consider Atletico getting enough shots to make it worthwhile. He's not winning the game. He's not getting a clean sheet, knock on wood. Obviously, I'm saying these things. But, yeah, and that's probably a more relative score that you can expect this slate. But I wouldn't say you're crazy for doing it. There isn't really a lot there to look at. There's not a lot of crossing outside of guys like Van Aken and Vormer. They split the corner duties, which is slightly ironic since they are both like very defensive-minded center midfielders. 3K. What do you need from 3K? What do you need from 3.2K? Like Van Aken was awesome last slate, and he really fit into a lot of scripts that allowed you to do a lot of great things. So I highly doubt 3.2K is going to be a complication. You can literally just blindly pick that, and you know Atletico aren't perfect. They're going to give up something. The hope is that obviously Black will make some saves, but yeah, there's no reason to be afraid from 3.2K, despite Atletico's defensive mindedness. You would still take a wide receiver against the Jaguars if he costed dirt cheap, and you know he was going to get tons of volume. You don't expect him to do great. You just expect him to do well enough from his salary that's going to allow you to get both Messi and Griezmann into your cash card, for example. So yeah, that's just something to consider for Bruges. There really isn't too much outside of those two. Minutes is a big deal here for these guys. They use a lot of different players. People have been talking Vossen up super heavy before the Champions League. He's doing very well in the domestic. So yeah, I don't have any issue with Vossen if you want to be super the craziest contrarian of the entire slate. No one will be on him, but there's no serious goal upside on that. It's just being if you want to be the most different cat in the block. So yeah, that's basically my Bruges take. So yeah, 1-0 Atletico, 2-0 if we're super fortunate, and 2-1 if we're super unlucky. That's really what's going to happen this game. Almost guarantee it. That's the Atletico way. So yeah, jumping on to the next game here, Inter traveling to PSV. So this one should be really interesting. As I mentioned, Inter have to score some goals here. Hand and Novik is a talented keeper. In no way is he a sub 5K keeper. A lot of this is priced around two factors. One, they're away. Two, last game they had a real struggle against Spurs. So their salaries aren't going to be obscene as other teams like Messi, for example, who won 4-0 or 4-1 or whatever last game. So it's just a little bit of a cheaper option. Honestly, probably my favorite keeper play of the entire slate. Inter plays into a lot of different hands here. They love to cross the ball too. They're capable of clean sheets. PSV aren't that great. I know they're at home. There's a lot to consider there. For cash, I think this is probably one of the safer wins of the entire slate. In terms of clean sheet, I like the idea, especially when you get to the defenders. D'Ambrosino is an Italian legend. He's been playing a lot of minutes for the injured Versaco. So again, 4.3K is way too cheap of someone of that talent. And same with Asoma. He's actually a midfielder. So we're getting a free shot at a clean sheet listed as a defender, and he doesn't even play defense. Yeah, I got no issue with that. Again, he may not play. This is the issue with Inter's wingbacks, is they're not really standard with them. D'Ambrosino is getting a lot of time because Versaco's hurt, but other than that, there's not a lot of consistent minutes to stick with at the back. I do like a center back goal from this game. De Vrij is very well known for getting forward, and Miranda is more than capable defender for, again, the Harry Maguire strategy. He's just too cheap for Miranda. 2.9 is just too cheap, and even a clean sheet, just a clean sheet, and as long as he doesn't take a card and just exists for 90 minutes, you're getting a return enough that won't ruin you from that salary, because you'll be able to afford two guys that are going to score 25 plus points. So yeah, I like the Inter defense. It's hard to know who's going to be starting and where. They do some different formation things, but like I said, I like a set piece goal here from a center back, maybe even De Vrij. But yeah, I really like Miranda's salary. It's tough to continue ignoring that. Now, when we get to the midfield, here's where the sharp plays happen. Now, I have a few hopes of what's going to happen with ownerships, and my hope is that a lot of people will notice Perisic's name from the World Cup this summer and click him, and not be aware that he hasn't scored a goal in 6 games, and I think like 14 games when you include all sorts of other like friendlies and stuff. So he hasn't scored in forever. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I like him. He's a talented player. He just hasn't scored in forever. So let people own that. It's a huge risk in either format. Let them own that, and it's a mistake as far as I'm concerned. I'm fading Perisic, easy fade. Don't even bother with that 7.5K. Even though he's a world-class name. Now, Nyangolin is another world-class player that got left off the Belgian World Cup team this summer. In my opinion, he maybe even should have been the captain of Belgium this summer. But all that being said, he's kind of a box-to-box midfielder, doesn't play too offensive, but really 6.7K I think is a huge bargain for someone of his capabilities. He has a really good floor of peripheral stats, so you're not risking too much in terms of. I wouldn't recommend it for cash because he doesn't do a lot of things. He doesn't take enough shots, doesn't take enough corners or free kicks, and he doesn't cross the ball enough. But especially on FanDuel, whenever we get over there, he may be a lock this slate. But Kendever is another guy that people may be interested in, especially if they played last DFS last season, will definitely be drawn to. And the fact is that he rarely sees minutes, and a lot of the times he starts, and he rarely sees over 60 minutes. So he's guaranteed to be coming off the field. Let people be drawn to that, especially thinking they're being smart, taking an interstack and filling in with Perisic or Kendever. Fine, all day. Let them do that. It's a huge leak. Stay away from those two players. I wouldn't even really suggest Neil Logan, but you can in a GPP. It is an option. It's not my favorite, but it is an option. Brosevic's supposed to be taking set pieces, but he doesn't. So I'm kind of a wait and see on this a little bit. I won't touch too deeply on that because really this is the guy you should be locking in 100% across the board this slate. My top play easily, it's not even close, is Mauro Icardi on Inter. I'm even more bullish about him today than I was Edin Dzeko yesterday, especially on FanDuel. DraftKings, not so much. He doesn't cross the ball, and he doesn't really do enough to draw peripheral stats outside of getting goals. On FanDuel, he's incredible, and it's his salary that's really crazy. He has multi-goal upside, takes the penalties, which I'm calling in this game. I'm calling an Inter penalty shot goal, and it will be Icardi who will take it and who will score it. I think he's worth 2 goals this slate. 7.6K is a massive leak. For anyone, I'll give you a little quick backstory on Icardi. Argentinian, excuse me. I apologize for that. But basically, his claim to fame is that he plays the exact same position as Lionel Messi, and Lionel Messi has repeatedly stated and refused to allow him Icardi on the national team because Messi knows that's who plays behind him. And the second Messi doesn't play at his absolute best capability, Mauro Icardi is more than capable of taking away Messi's starting role in the national team. That's how good this guy is. He's been captain of Inter since he was 21 years old. Like I can't talk enough great things about this guy. 7.6K. At the end of the day, forgetting literally everything I just said, 7.6K is too cheap for someone that's getting 90 minutes as the main forward against PSV. Now remember everything else I said. So, yeah, Icardi should be one of your top plays this slate. I wouldn't recommend it for cash because, like I said, he doesn't have a floor. But GPP, fire him up as much as possible. Now, for cash, conversely, Politano, Matteo Politano is someone that you can absolutely rely on cash. The issue with Inter is minutes. Icardi's not coming off, so we know he's staying on the field. That's one of the big reasons I like him so much. But someone like Politano could play 90 minutes and take all the set pieces. You can see what he even does at 72 minutes. He's more than talented enough. So, yeah, cash, lock that in, 7.2. I'm not sure if he's going to start. That's the issue with because Kendevra and Perisic and Politano, they're all, even Yeo Mario, if anyone remembers him, from West Ham last season, they're all way more than capable wingers. They all deserve 90 minutes. Now, Kendevra's never played 90 minutes in his career, and Perisic's probably at the bottom end of his career and doesn't deserve 90 minutes, but they're still going to get minutes, and that's a concern for me. So I don't mind Politano and Cash. You can I'm pretty bullish on it, but my expectation is that he's coming off early. It's just I think he will do enough, especially against a side like PSV, to get done at 7.2K. So yeah, let's move on to PSV. There are a couple guys here I want to talk about. Excuse me. There's no way I'm playing a 4.6K keeper against Icardi. Doesn't matter what team, unless it's like Atletico Madrid, I would consider it. Even then, PSV weren't looking at a clean sheet before they were playing Inter. So Inter have to win this. They're gonna be looking to literally cut the throat here of PSV. I have no interest in their keeper from that salary. 3.6, yes, I would absolutely consider something. 4.6. New way, not happening. Now they do have a few interesting options here, but nothing really too serious to write home. There's nobody out in the back line here that takes set pieces or anything like that. That's more whenever you get into the midfield. Yeah, again, one of the problems with PSV is that they're coming off a game against Barcelona where all of their stats are going to be absolutely floored. Now, at the same time, a lot of these guys don't really do a lot of things. Pereiro does have a role in the offense, but those are just wasted salaries right there, even against a side like Barcelona. Yeah. Their real strength is in their forwards. They got a couple incredible world-class talents. Luke de Jong. If anyone's unfamiliar with Luke de Jong, again, he's one of those guys, very much like Icardi, that's every season on the radar of the really big teams of especially England, the Manchesters and the Londons. Luke de Jong's always on radars. But this is my big concern for into the slate. Hirving Lozano, if anyone watched the World Cup this summer with Mexico, he basically stole the show in the group stage. So there's no reason to believe at the same time. One of my first GPPs that I built for this slate was this. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. At the same time, I don't see a clean sheet. I just can't. I want to. I really do want to see a clean sheet for Inter Milan, because I think with that upside really makes their salaries foolish. But it's tough because Lozano could just as easily be a clean sheet buffer, and he could give the 6 saves that they need to break the slate. That's the kind of player he is. But at the same time, he's probably going to score. On FanDuel, it's really hard not to take this guy. We'll get more of that later, but it's even more important to point out he was doing this against Barcelona. We have to accept Hirving Lozano is a world-class talent. It's unfortunate this slate because it goes against a lot of the intertakes that I personally am pretty heavy on. But yeah, not in cash over here, but GPP absolutely. Lozano, even if you want to go Icardi, him or Icardi with a Messi, even because if you take these two and Messi, that's a really good way to break the Messi ownership molds. Because a lot of times here you're going to have to figure out unique ways if you're going to play Messi in GPP to make sure nobody else has what you have. And that would be a good way to start. Not many people are going to be on PSV, and not many people are going to be on Lozano because they just may not know how good he is. So yeah, that's really my PSV intertake. I would love to say 2-4 Inter. It's probably going to be, honestly, it's probably going to be 1-1 or something stupid like that. Even a 1-0 PSV, something crazy, because I'm pretty desperate about this game. I'm pretty bullish on Inter. They're probably my favorite team for this entire slate. So yeah, that's just my own ghost coming back to haunt me, I guess you could say. But yeah, I really do. I'm really bullish on Inter for this slate, as long as Lozano is the point buffer and not the point ruiner. So yeah, that's the take there. Now, the real game of the slate, Dortmund against Monaco. Let's start with Monaco because it's really easy. These guys are, I'll just say it, they're getting relegated from the French domestic league. Like, all the props to Monaco. They got a bunch of players I really like. The fact is that over the last 12 months, their roster went from a borderline future Barcelona team to absolute nobodies. Just a few names I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. Kylian Mbappe, who is now with PSG. He came from Monaco. Benjamin Mendy, who is with Man City as a left back. He came from Monaco. What's some other names? Geez, I can't think off the top of my head, because like the list just goes on and on here of all the different names that played for Monaco within the past 12 months. And obviously they've been gutted across the board. Literally their entire team is basically different except for Falcao, who is the legend, I guess you could say. Yeah. Mendy on City, Bernardo Silva on City. He came from Monaco. Timio Bakayoko, excuse me, on Chelsea. You'll be hearing a lot more of him in the years to come. He came from Monaco. Who else? Kangalo, who's on Huddersfield. Lamar, who's on Atletico Madrid. Fabinho, who's on Liverpool. All played for Monaco within the past 12 months. So that's how Monaco got here. And now, not the same team whatsoever. Not even close to the same team. So I don't know. I can't really blame them for having such a poor tournament. They still do have a couple of guys we can consider here. The first one is Sidibe. He's probably the only player on the entire team that's really viable. 4.3K. You can absolutely use that in cash, not worry about needing a clean sheet bonus, and he's still going to be pushing double digits just around what he does because he's literally their entire team. With Lopez and Tielemans out, Tielemans, a lot of people would have probably landed on Tielemans again this slate. He's usually a pretty popular pick. He takes some corner kicks, 4.2K. He has pretty decent peripheral stats. So the big issue with me and him is, or me and him, I don't even know the guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy. My big issue with him as a player this slate, the coach is super down on him and has been basically trash talking him for 2 weeks and then sat him this weekend. Now, that sitting may have been in light of this game coming up and needing him to be fresh. But yeah, I'm just not interested there. Like Chadley, maybe he's a Belgian international. Obviously, used to play for West Brom. More than talented enough, but yeah, he got 60 minutes and did literally nothing. Literally nothing. Now, if that isn't a former West Brom descriptive player, I don't know what is. So, yeah, I'm just not interested in that. I know Atletico Madrid smothering, but come on, like, he didn't even make 20 passes up the field. He's an attacking winger, and he didn't even make 20 passes up the field. So, yeah, no thanks. That just isn't the kind of team that we want to be looking at. And like I was saying, Falcao, if you really want to, you can, because if there's anyone this slate who has a history of being clutch when they need him, it's definitely Falcao. But Monaco are so against it here for more than a number of reasons. Dortmund need to win this game by numerous goals. And it's a must, an absolute must, because once they do that, they're in the driver's seat and they're forcing Atletico to literally go against everything they stand for in terms of how they play the game, and forcing Atletico to get uncomfortable going forward. So this slate, yeah, you can. Dortmund still are really susceptible at the back. They've really turned things around in terms of their domestic play. They've rattled off a bunch of wins since last time around here in the Champions League, and that last time around was their first clean sheet in ages. So, yeah, I don't have too many issues. Bergie's probably too expensive. Mostly because his wingbacks just aren't playing well enough to really warrant that kind of exposure. Now, yeah, exactly. With Bruges opting to hunker down and defend, this was like the first time he played well all season, and the same can be said with Plisnek, who is even worse, honestly, all season. And he still hasn't been doing well. My hope is that Guerrero does get a start here. I doubt it. He's still hurting. But yeah, he's been more like on the bench waiting to get his time. One of the best DFS players in all of Europe. Takes some set pieces, gets forward, loves to shoot the ball. So absolute cannon of a shot on Guerrero. So he'll have low ownership for GPP, and in cash, he'll still have a really great floor. So I got no problem with that, with a potential clean sheet. Moving into the midfield, just to touch quickly on, I doubt Hakimi will play. It would have been nice if he would have, but I really doubt it. It just seems less and less likely. Now into the midfield, Thomas Delaney is a really good player, but has been hurt most of the season and probably won't play. But if he does, he could be super sneaky because he does handle a lot of set pieces. I doubt it's going to happen, but it's just something to bring up in case it does, and very few other people will be aware of that. Götze, you can definitely get on the Mario Götze train if in GPP if you're feeling super frisky. I'm not interested at all. I would rather look at the other two. Pulisic, little expensive, but I think he's almost a must-play in GPP if he gets to start. Like I said, Dortmund are going to need to score some goals, and there's not many other guys on the squad who do that as well as Pulisic. And anyone who is American will have absolutely no problem playing him. They'll feel great about it. So I don't blame you. I feel great about playing him too, and that's even before he's not even from my country. So yeah. Pulisic, lock him in GPP, even for some cash. If you fall on it, it's not the craziest thing because this game should be pretty dominant. And I had Roos and cash last slate, and my cash card went like obscenely off. And Roos sat there at 3.3 and played every second and just like crapped away all my takedown potential and all my serious high-end double-ups. It was pretty upsetting, but there wasn't really much I could do. And when I'm considering that, I'm trying to think now, well, I shouldn't say right now. I was trying to think coming up to doing this video, how viable is he this slate? And he's super viable. That's the issue. And I feel so burned by him. It's probably a good indication I should go right back to him, because there should be more than enough in this game to really suffice everyone. I'm not going to go back in the Jordan Sancho train if he gets to start. Again, I feel burned, but I knew going in ahead of time I was probably going to get burned by the minutes. So it was more just confirming what I knew was going to happen already. And I just don't want to keep doing that because I know he's going to come off again. I'd rather just stick with Pulisic for the 90 minutes and spend up. But yeah, looking up front, they technically don't have a forward. Philip and Wolf are both midfielders. So yeah, I would rather just again put Pulisic as their forward. If you're going to play someone from Dortmund as a forward, just lock in the Pulisic at 8.1K. I got no issue with that, and the rest of them you can easily fade. Isaac's going to be a name in a few years, just not yet. But yeah, that's really my Dortmund and Monaco take. I think this game could go crazy. If you were telling me what to do in ask me what to do in GPP, I would definitely be looking at these two teams, because this team right here is going to get so much ownership, and this team will probably get a lot of ownership because Griezmann's pretty face, and no one will realize in GPP he's not scoring more than a goal. And like I said, I think there's multiple goal upside for Pulisic, and there's multiple goal upside for Icardi. And even I think Roos will have way too much ownership after being burned really badly. So, yeah, that's my take for this game. I think it's another 4-0, 4-1 type of game for Dortmund. They need that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them score more than 3 goals and make them, again, one of the better offenses to attack with this slate. So, yeah, going on to the next one here, Galatasaray heading to Porto. This one's actually really cut and dry. It's just a matter of whether or not Porto can keep a clean sheet. Porto have never lost to a Turkish team in Champions League. Galatasaray have never beaten a Portuguese team in Champions League. Galatasaray have lost like 9 straight Champions League away games, barely scoring in them. So it's like, this is definitely a Porto game to be had. The issue here is that, well, there's 2 sides. This Porto score tons of goals at home, but they're also really, really weak at the back in terms of keeping the ball out of the net. Now, what's super frustrating about that is that Casillas is still like, again, if you've never heard of Ilker Casillas, he's basically the most historic keeper still playing, not named Buffon. This guy was on the Spanish team back before Ronaldo was even playing a Man United. Like, he is as old school OG as anyone gets in Champions League. So, like, by all means, Casillas is someone that you can play because he's so obscenely legit as a pedigree. Porto just are really bad at keeping the ball out of the net, and they don't often allow a ton of shots on net. So it doesn't exactly equate to great things for Casillas, but like Telles is the play for defenders this slate. Anyone who watched, he had a penalty shot miss within the first few seconds of last slate, and still didn't absolutely ruin his day. He has one of the highest floors for all wing backs on DraftKings, with his crossing. So, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with that in cash. A little bit shy in GPP because I think there's a lot more GPP edge to be had from a Galatasaray goal and just fading it than taking a Porto clean sheet and losing out on it. So, yeah, I don't mind Telles in cash, but I'm just not going to chase that in GPP. Going forward, after Telles missed his penalty shot and Porto got another penalty shot, Otavio took it, which is interesting because Otavio doesn't usually play this deep into games. So it was great to see him get that deep and actually go off. I had him in most of my GPP lineups, so it was pretty cool to see him take a penalty shot out of nowhere. And I don't know, Hector Herrera, you're going to see on FanDuel is probably, I can't recall off the top of my head, the second or third most expensive midfielder, and that he passes a lot and has a massive defensive preferential outscoring, but no attack whatsoever. And yeah, you could get super lucky in an assist, but then you'd still be lucky to push double digits, and that would barely be 2 times value, which just wouldn't cut it. If he was like one of the 3K, 3.1K guys, absolutely we could consider this, but 4.8 is just too much. So let people look at FanDuel, see that price, and think it's viable over here, and it just isn't. It's a leak. It's a mistake. I would like Brahmi to get more time. He just doesn't get the time. So there's not really much to look at there. One of Porto's big deals is defensive peripheral stats. They're not as crossing as we would like outside of Telles. And again, I think this forward crew on Porto may be the most sneaky of the entire slate because, again, anyone who is even remotely familiar with soccer knows who Icardi is through the Messi stuff. Anyone who knows anything remotely about soccer knows who Christian Pulisic is, because he's literally your only hope as a national team. Anyone who knows anything about soccer knows who Griezmann is, because he's absolutely gorgeous and won a World Cup scoring goals for France. I'm not even going to talk about this. Like, the ownership all across here should be really massive. And then when you get to this game, no one's going to know, especially if they played a Bookbar last slate off my suggestion, that he is capable of doing crazy things like scoring a point every 10 minutes. And that's even before getting a goal or two, which is kind of a consistent thing for him in GPPs in Champions League. So GPPs, Abukbar is one of the better options. And even more than him, I like is Mareja for this slate. Now, there isn't really – my thought process in this is actually really straightforward. There isn't much to suggest that he's going to go off or do something crazy. He gets 90 minutes when we consider all the ownerships that we talked about and the minutes issue on Abukbar. He's really the only minutes viable forward on Porto. When we consider Porto needs to win this game, regularly scores 3+ goals at home. Yeah, Marega. Again, I'm saying this kind of on the what's the saying? The fly of my pants or whatever, seat of my pants. There isn't a lot of reasons for me to suggest him being my favorite play other than just like some interesting, intricate game theory. So there's no script. There's no statistics to back it up that he's going to do great. I just think he's probably the sneakiest player of the slate. Now, going back to Galatasaray, Durdayuk, last slate did really well. I had him and really paid off. He was dirt cheap. So yeah, 7K wasn't that cheap, but he won me a lot of money. He had no ownership. I thought he had 2 goals. I guess not. But yeah, he is a big target man up front, and Galatasaray love to cross the ball. So it's really hard not to consider him. And like Ekbaba was a cash lock for me last slate and really paid off. Was one of the better plays of the entire slate, from 4.6 scoring over 20 points. So it was an incredible outing for him. I really, honestly, I don't have many problems with him going back to cash this slate. He's probably a little bit too expensive given last slate and how well he did. But yeah, the floor is there. There's no question the floor is there. And Rodriguez had a really great game too, but he doesn't have the same kind of floor. He just has, as you can see, that's a really good goal upside. So yeah, that is really my take from this game. I want to say something like a 2-0 Porto win. It could even be a 4-2 win. I think Porto are going to win by 2 goals. That's my basic point here. Porto +2. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but Porto +2. I hope for a clean sheet. Final game. This is a banger. Liverpool at Napoli. I don't think a lot of things need to be said here about Liverpool other than how to approach this. If Milner doesn't start, you're probably going to have to consider Trent Alexander-Arnold. Him and Robinson will pick up a lot of the set piece uptick. If Milner does start, I have no problem with him in cash, even from 7.1. Liverpool are just a really good team now. The big issue here is that when Liverpool are away from home, especially in Champions League, they are bad. They are bad. They went to Napoli last year and were bad. They went to Sevilla last year and they were bad. This is a recurring theme. Liverpool go away to a team and they just don't play well. They don't play poorly. They don't get blown out. They usually just disappoint with a really embarrassing 0-0 game. Now, if we consider what just happened last week with Napoli at Red Star, that was such a gross game, absolutely disastrous, boring game. And that's kind of Napoli's style, honestly. They're not really like a blowout team anymore, and Liverpool away from home aren't a blowout team anymore. So I'm actually thinking this is going to be a cancel game. I think it's going to be, for a casual soccer fan, I think it's going to be an incredible game. I think there'll be a lot of really smart plays, but it'll be more of a chess match than people are expecting. Obviously, I would love to see a 3-2 Liverpool win or something cool like that. We're just as likely to see a 1-1 tie and like no real production from anyone. And their salaries are still a little bit too high. Like Calashan doesn't play 90 minutes. Insigne rarely plays 90 minutes. Shaqiri doesn't play 90 minutes. Mane does from time to time. Salah usually plays 90 minutes, but is way too expensive considering it's Liverpool away from home. Firmino has been really, really, really good in the Champions League away from home. So that's something to remember from 7.3. But at the same time, try and tell me he's not going to come off for super sub Sturridge. He is a super stud too, but super sub Sturridge. Mertens has been incredible at home, but garbage this season. So it's like, yeah, you can take Mertens in Champions League at home and just kind of hope for the best in GPP. But that's really the extent of it. I do think that Napoli have some interesting options. I would love to see Hams getting more minutes. He would be really fun to take in GPP. Marco Rog not getting any minutes would be really fun to take him in some formats. That's new. Yeah, sorry for the pause there. I'm literally just reading this now, because I haven't seen the out pop up until right now. Now, I'm not going to lie, he wasn't my favorite play this slate, but there's no doubt Mary Rui is tearing up the domestic league right now in terms of crosses. So you could have considered that, I should say. Wow, if he's out, if he's actually out, I wish Liverpool just played good away from home in the Champions League, because their defense is going to be an absolute embarrassment without Mario Rui in terms of like attacking output. Like Hayasa is not a good player. He's going to give the ball away before he crosses it. I can't think of more defensively minded center backs than Koulibaly and Raul Abreu. So yeah, that's interesting. If anything, it makes me like James Milner a little bit more. But yeah, Mertens maybe in GPP, that would be it. I would rather just fade this game for everything else. Yeah, that's kind of my Napoli take. No, I've never liked Ospina. I've never put money on him, even when he played for Arsenal, and it's never once hurt me. So I have no issues with that. Now, Allison, he's been playing really well. Like, just he's been in really, really high form. So I don't know. Could be interesting against Napoli at home, especially if it's Napoli with no defense. Um, Interesting to see who they start: Moreno and Klein, or Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I have to imagine Liverpool are going to go full throttle here, even though I'm pretty sure they play Man City this weekend. Like, they've had the craziest run of schedule over the past couple of weeks. Yeah, Man City. Jeez, that's savage. That is heavy duty. So Man City, Napoli, Chelsea. That was easy. PSG, Spurs, Leicester, which wasn't a cakewalk. Yeah, so they've had some really, really tough runs of games here, and have still found results. Obviously, not finding one against Chelsea wasn't probably the best feeling, but yeah, I'm on the Milner show. If I'm taking anyone from this entire game, Milner, then that's a tough one. It'd probably go Milner. Then I would consider probably Mertens and GPP. Milner and cash, Mertens GPP. Maybe some Firmino and GPP because he's been so flames. But I think I'm just going to fade this for ownership. Let the homers take their picks and think they're getting a great Salah play when he hasn't even been good against average English Premier League teams, let alone away from home. Now, he was flames for Roma against Napoli. But again, that's when he was playing in Italy and living in Italy. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not interested. This game, safe fade. Probably 2-2, 1-1 game, but not enough production to really go crazy with. There could be one guy, like I said, Milner or Mertens, who could, stand out a little bit. But that's really my takes over here in DraftKings. So let's quickly jump over to FanDuel here. So yeah, again, we can see this is the best, I don't want to say the best keeper in the world, but easily the most consistent keeper of the world in the entire world. And for him to be such a heavy favorite at home and not be the most expensive is probably a leak, especially since Dortmund aren't that great at clean sheets. I think this is pretty interesting and very telling. I think this is really interesting and telling to see how expensive Casillas is. And even crazier, more interesting and telling is how cheap Handovic is over here. Now, this could be really telling that both sites expect Lozano to score a goal. I still think Handovic's one of my favorite keeper plays this slate. But, literally, the closer we get to kickoff time, the less bullish I'm getting. Muslera still is one of the better keepers in the world. I'm less on him this slate because he's not at home. But yeah, at home, I don't think there's any real problem with taking Muslera. Away from home, not much point. But yeah, it's great for them to finally get Kazinga involved. I don't really find much warrant in any other of the cheap keepers. I don't think any of them are even playing anyways. But yeah, that's basically it. Oblak should really dominate over here on FanDuel, simply because he's not the most expensive and he absolutely should be. Huge leak, huge leak. But yeah, jumping over to defense. Yeah, you'll see some center backs, obviously. Some again, Jordi Alba over here being crazy expensive, where in DraftKings he's dirt cheap. And I know scoring's different, but they don't count crossing over here, and he's a huge crosser of the ball, so I don't get it. I don't know what to say. I don't know why he should be probably more expensive in DraftKings, I guess is what I should say. I think Trippier's chance creation is still going to be high enough, and he's probably going to get a few shots on net from free kicks. So I don't mind that. A little bit too expensive for me. I don't mind this. Godin is just a world-class talent. As we go down, again, I know crosses aren't counted, but the chance creation and his general floor from corners and free kicks and penalty shots, it's really hard to deny 5.5K for someone of the talent that Tellez is, and especially if they somehow manage a clean sheet. He'll probably be the leading defender of the slate over in FanDuel, excuse me. And you see, that again, I know they're hugely crossing, but they're walking clean sheet bonuses. So I have no issue, especially with Philip Luis, whose chance creation and has a much higher assist upside than Juan Fran, and obscenely higher than Hernandez. Again, I'll restate, if Hernandez starts, just fade him. Sure, he could go out and get an assist. It's just not likely. But yeah, keep scrolling down here. There's a couple more guys. If he's out, that changes a little bit. But I'm not as bullish, obviously, simply because the crosses over here aren't as valuable. I was last slate because he was $1,000 cheaper, and it really didn't matter at that point. But now that he's 5.5, I think there's different options that we can go with that don't have to be that. But yeah, I think there's, like I said, a center back goal to be had somewhere. But yeah, this one's kind of interesting to me. Skinner got a lot of time last game too. So again, Guerrero, one of the best DFS players in all of Europe in terms of defense. So if he can start getting minutes again, 4.5K is an absolute must play over here, even with the crosses. He shoots the ball more than he crosses, and that shots are worth gold over here, absolute gold. I talked about Semedo earlier. He could just do enough from 4.5 on a Barcelona team to pay off. He doesn't need the crosses. So yeah, that's someone else that you can really rely on over here in FanDuel and defense to do a lot of things for you. What else do we have? Yeah, D'Ambrosini, like, I don't know, 4K. I don't know. I knew a while ago he wasn't playing. Or he was playing 90 minutes. So I'm not sure how the site missed it. And again, Sidibe is the player on Monaco. There's just nobody else on Monaco with any kind of point output that's anywhere close to his, even on FanDuel. So yeah, I have no problem if you're looking to really spend up here on your FanDuel in either cash or GPP. These guys you can roll with in both. Now, obviously, you're going to have to be really considerate towards what Dortmund players you play. But yeah, I think both those guys have super warrant this slate. They're both way too cheap. Absolute leaks over in FanDuel. Yeah, jumping quickly again, Coutinho. Great play. And then you can safely fade Salah because Liverpool are really bad away from home, and he's been bad lately. You can safely fade Insigne on the chance that he's probably coming off the field. And if he doesn't, they're going to be in a really close, low-scoring game. Now, we talked about Herrera earlier, how cheap he is in DraftKings. And I don't know. I don't like him from the salary over here. I would like to see him a little bit cheaper. But yeah, again, Rakitic, excuse me, moderately priced over here, dirt cheap on DraftKings, especially for GPP and DraftKings and Barcelona stacks. Probably someone you're going to need. But yeah, going down Pulisic, way too cheap over here. This guy's going to shoot the ball 5 times. So that's basically 20 points by itself on FanDuel. So yeah, I got no problem with him. Koke, again, exact same situation. These guys are both too cheap. They both should be 9.5K. And furthermore, if Milner gets to start, like, there's a really solid midfield core that doesn't include a Barcelona player that you're able to spend up to later, as long as you take those cheap defenders. But yeah, that's the midfield isn't too crazy over here in FanDuel. I think Nigaloan obviously offers some interesting aspects over here from the salary. That's probably a little bit too cheap. So that may be someone you want to get in some different formats, especially interstacks. Nobody will be stacking him with interplayers. So he could be a really cool hammer to bring in. There we see Asama. We talked about him on DraftKings. He's listed as a defender, so we get a clean sheet opportunity if it happens. This is where Shaqiri belongs. This is Lamar, just the easiest fade of life. Otavio's interesting. You got the 90 minutes and the penalty shot. I hope Delaney gets minutes soon. Easy fade, hasn't scored in forever. Doesn't look like he's going to score again anytime soon. You can see Van Aken over here, 7K, a little bit more expensive. So it shows you why in DraftKings, 3K is probably just a little bit too cheap, even though the scoring's so obscenely different. Because I can guarantee you Jordan Henderson isn't that cheap in DraftKings. And they're rocking the same deal over here. So yeah, I think this is kind of interesting for GPP. He's just been playing a lot better recently. Naby Keita has been playing a lot better recently. So I think that's interesting. Then you see Vormer again down to 6.5. That's cool. I like that cheap. I like that. Like I said, Kendever's coming off. So he isn't the guy you want to stack with your interstacks. Who else do we got here? I want to keep moving here as quickly as possible. Sorry, so we can get into hockey and get everyone some dinner. But yeah, I think that's basically it. I am half interested over here in FanDuel to see how Tottenham line up their midfield because there's probably going to be a lot of preferential stats for guys that are 5 and 5.1K or 5.5K. So that's something to remember on FanDuel for sure. The Spurs guys are going to be really cheap with lots to give. But yeah. There's your cash. Like that's flames. That's absolute flames for cash. And like if you want, you can drop Milner. But yeah, That's really it, those two right there. Now, whenever we get up here, FanDuel's a little bit harder with the salaries. 13.5 is a massive difference in comparison to what was it over here? I think it's 10 points, 11.3, 10.4. So 13.5, 12.5, big jumps across the board, really. It's going to take some consideration to hear what you want to do. Like I said, Griezmann's only good for cash, and Messi's only really good for cash. Now, is it possible to get them both in? I really doubt it. Let's give it a quick try here, just so we can all take a look to see what happens. There's Citadby. There was D apostrophe. There we go. 6.5 each. So you're pushing it. You're gonna have to take, yeah. I don't know. That's tough. It's tough. I don't recommend it, but it is doable even in cash. There are a few guys down here that I'm seeing that you could actually rock in cash and get away with it, especially if you take a cheaper keeper. So yeah. Basically, you can't take Messi in GPP because of ownership. You can't take Griezmann in GPP because there's no ceiling. You can't really take Harry Kane in GPP because of ownership, because so many people are still going to own him. You can probably get away with Suarez because he's going to be lower owned, and he does have a pretty decent goal upside. You can probably get away with Firmino because of his goal upside, but he's still going to have a little bit too much ownership in comparison to how well Liverpool are actually going to do. Roos is going to have no ownership. People are going to remember being so obscenely burned from the last slate. He's playing a game. They need to score. I don't mind him. 10.5 is a pretty big discount compared to these two when there's not as much edge with those two. And he has a ton of edge. Dortmund could score 5 goals this game. Like that's totally in play here. And so that's something to remember. But yeah, Mertens is something you can think about, but I wouldn't suggest it. If Dembele starts, you may have to get him in your lineups. It'll be hard not to. He's been scoring at a really high rate. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. I really like Akbar. Well, that just means more in Marega. But yeah, Milik takes penalty shots for Napoli. It's possible. Look how cheap Icardi is. The guy's going to shoot the ball worth 20 points alone, and that's before goals or anything else. Over here, this is absolutely cash viable. 90 minutes, goal upside, tons of shots. Hard to look away from that. And if you don't want to and you need to save a little bit, just go Politano, and you're still going to get that kind of floor, but not as much upside, especially considering he probably won't last the full 90 minutes. But yeah, there's 7K for the guy that's playing 9K. There's something about him. He's so sneaky. He's so sneaky this slate. I can't see anyone owning him. And again, Lazard, check. That is so sneaky. That right there is so crazy sneaky and could be worth 4 to 5 goals. That's ceiling, like absolute max ceiling. But yeah, I really like those two a lot. I just seeing absolutely no ownership on them and still a crazy goal upside and salaries to boot, which absolutely allow you to put in guys like Coutinho and whoever else that you want that's really expensive, Koke and Pulisic. Like you're still literally, you can still take the absolute most expensive goalkeeper and just not the most expensive defenders, and you're still flying. So yeah, that's a sick GPP start right there. You've seen all the defensive stacks I've been rolling with too. So that should give you a really good idea how to build some soccer lineups for today. We can take a really quick look over at tiers. The reason I left this till the end is because, I'll be the first to tell everyone I have a really big ego, but I highly doubt DraftKings was literally listening to my video yesterday when I talked about how easy tiers was, because they really flipped the tables here and made it incredibly complicated. They basically wiped the entire slate of the cash options and put them all in the same tiers. So honestly, I'm fading tiers this slate. I'm not playing them. It's not properly set up for success this slate. You can go Griezmann if you want in cash for tiers. I would go Suarez and GPP, and Roos would be my third for either cash or GPP, but fade the Liverpool. Tier 2, Coutinho for cash, Pulisic for GPP, and my third would definitely be Harry Kane for a GPP. But I think you can put Coutinho in either cash or GPP here, and Pulisic in GPP, and you'll be absolutely fine for tier 2. So Pulisic and Coutinho, stick with those two. Tier 3, Icardi, again, the obvious one with Lozano. So you're going to have to choose one or the other for goal upside in GPP. I like Icardi, has a little bit more upside, but Dembele is also sitting there too. He'll be the lesser owned of the three. But the real disturbing part about tier 3 is that there's literally, without Eriksson, there's absolutely no cash option whatsoever, period. Probably won't play. Hasn't been playing well in forever, hasn't scored in forever, won't play 90 minutes, probably won't play 90 minutes, doesn't have a floor. No floor, just lots of goal upside. No floor, just lots of goal upside. And no floor and not really that much goal upside, but decent ownership. Pivot away from the Messi, Suarez, everyone else. So, yeah, that's my tier 3. And tier 3 is really the reason I'm not playing tiers this slate. It's just a really ugly tier. There's no cash in there at all. You're going to have to take a goal, and good luck with that. Yeah, not interested. Just take Icardi for either cash or GPP is probably the safest. Then for tier 4, what happens is they go and they put the two decent real cash options from the slate, and James Miller and Koke in the same tier. So yeah, I'm not really too keen. Again, Politano is a cash option and stuck in here. Mertens is a cash option and stuck in here. So yeah, not playing tiers. This is why. Nigalone, you could probably use in GPP if you want. Goetze if you want, if you're stacking some Dortmund. But yeah, moving on to tier 5. Again, literally completely void of cash options. And that's what my concern is like I was saying in the past, like DraftKings always puts cash people in here, and I'm looking through the list, and none of these people even cross the ball, let alone take set pieces. So this is one of the reasons I originally fell in Marego, was like, oh, he's in this tier, and nobody else is even really viable. So I looked into him, and I started liking him more and more in Porto. But yeah, no thanks for this entire tier. Honest to God, guys, there's not even a cash play. There really isn't. If like you're absolutely desperate, Kendever will cross the ball probably more than anyone else. But yeah, he's coming off the field at 60 minutes. So there's your card. Have fun. And Akbaba is a great cash option if he was in a different card, because there's Tellus, the other only really great cash option for this entire slate for defense. So and then look, Philip Luis, the other guy who you could probably use in cash, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, another guy you can use in cash. So like all the cash guys are grouped together, and it's absolutely void in others. And I'm just not interested in without the spread. So yeah, that's my tiers take. I'm sorry if that wasn't what you just wanted to hear. If you reserved a tier already, hit me up. I'll do my best I can to help you build a proper tier skeleton and get you on your way. But yeah, that's really my tiers take. That's my soccer takes for today. I hope everyone really liked them. I hope we can get some information out of them. Like I said, the Inter, the Dortmund, and the Porto today for attacks. This is really where I'm focusing my main attack. In terms of the clean sheet, Atletico is just a walking clean sheet, and I think Inter's pretty sneaky for a clean sheet, even though they're away from home. But yeah, that's soccer. Good luck this afternoon. Let's move on to hockey. So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm Canadian. I live in Prince Edward Island, Canada. We are the home of the NHL's toughest player, Adam McQuaid. So don't mess with anyone from PEI. We will absolutely mess you up in return. Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon are all from just 3 hours away. Brad Richards grew up in PEI. So hockey is it out here. This is this is really what people do out here is they play hockey. Yeah, I have no issues rolling out the hockey here this season for everyone, talking about hockey, getting really excited about it. It's if you were to ask me as a kid what I was going to do, I was going to be playing hockey. I wasn't going to be playing soccer. I'm very excited for hockey this season. There's a few different things we're going to look at here, including the tiers, just the general slate breakdown. But first, what I wanted to do is help everyone. If you're new, especially if you're not new in hockey and you know maybe this is a really quick refresher, maybe you'll find something you don't know here. But yeah, this is how to play DFS hockey. That's basically what I wanted to start off with really quickly. So really what you want to do, there's only DFS hockey is really simple. Actually, it's probably the easiest sport out of all sports to do anything for cash, especially for GPP. It's very meta reliant, so it's not going to get wonky very often. Basically what you want to do is three things. Get the two slates opened up and find a website that you like that has all the different line exposures for NHL. There's two in particular that I highly recommend. The first is called Left Wing Lock. Now, the thing with Left Wing Lock is they get better as the season goes on because they track every single minute certain line combinations play together. So at the start of the season, they're still fine, but they get better as things go on because, like I said, they literally track every single second these people play together, and they break it down in percentages for you and stuff. So I really like Left Wing Lock as the season goes on. Again, I just want to make a disclaimer. RotoPros is not affiliated. I'm not affiliated with these websites whatsoever. We do not, RotoPros doesn't fully know I'm talking about them. So like this isn't like we're supporting them or something. This is just my thing. I like these two sites. My other one, I personally use this one a lot more. Daily Face Off. This is probably my favorite hockey go-to to figure out what's happening that day, who's starting, what's going on. They've been incredibly reliant for me over the years. But at the end of the day, you can always check message boards, get in Slack conversations, check Twitter, especially Twitter will give you the literal rosters. But this is something that you can literally prepare yourself for the day of. So yeah, let's just take a quick look at a team that's going to be playing here tonight in Anaheim. So this is how it breaks down. Obviously, you have your four lines, first, second, third, fourth, three defensive pairings, first, second, third, and then the two power plays. So basically, there's two or three really important things to know about hockey. The first is the home team is always in the upper hand. The reason for this is that the away team has to put their line on the ice first, and then the home team gets to decide what line they're going to match up the away team's line with. So this is off a face-off, obviously. So that's a huge advantage for teams, especially when you get into a dominant situation where the away team puts on their third or fourth line and the home team puts on the first line. So a lot of times when you're thinking about your day ahead, the slate, remember the home teams, because a lot of times they're going to get the final decision and the matchup, and that will determine a lot of player production and who will be going against what. So a lot of times in hockey, the third line is called the checking line. This is generally made up of defensive players who will match up against the other team's first line. So generally speaking, what happens is if you're the home team, you don't want your best players going up against the other team's best players every single time, because there's no advantage to that. What you want to do is get your defensive line out against the other team's first line, and then whenever your chance rolls around, you can get their first line out against not their first line. So that's huge for home teams. That's really hockey, is the home team. You have to remember this all the time. That's going to be the most definitive thing for you in all of hockey. Is the home team. So this is Anaheim. They're playing tonight. They're not home. But one of the things for Anaheim is that they're super injured. So another thing, basically, this is how you build your hockey card. I'll just show you right now looking at these lines. Ideally, in GPP, you're stacking lines. So you want to take at least 1, 2, or 3 of players of the same line. Now, a lot of times what happens is, depending on the team, their power play will be the exact same line of their first line, or be a different broken phase of it or broken down of it. So you can see with Anaheim's first line is Rakeel, Getzlaf, and Troy Terry, who's playing as he's a sub, basically. Their right wingers hurt. Corey Perry is out for a long time. So Troy Terry stepping up here. And you can see there's their defensive first line is Lindholm and Monitor. Now, if we look at the first power play unit here, we see Rakeel, who is up here. But obviously we don't see Getzlaf or Troy Terry. So now whenever – oh, there's Getzlaf. Sorry, my bad, right there. So basically what we want to consider now is, whenever we go to make a stack in a GPP, who do we want to stack? It's absolutely pointless to take Sam Steele with Rickard Rakeel and someone else who doesn't even play on the power plays, because Rickard Rakeel and Sam Steele will never, ever, ever be on the ice at the same time. Ever. So whenever you go back to left wing lock later in the season, you'll be able to see that Sam Steele and Rickard Rakeel have never played a second together all season on the ice. So it's pointless to take them together in the same GPP card. Unless, of course, it's just a random fill at the end that you need to put in. But yeah, that's basically the idea here for GPPs in hockey, is stacking lines and looking at the power plays and trying to gauge what the different pairings are and who you want to put with who. So, for example, again, we see Henrique and Silverberg play here in the second line, and we see they're here also in the first power play unit. Now, what it wouldn't make sense to do, or excuse me, yeah, what it wouldn't make sense to do would take either Henrique and Silverberg, or take Rakeel and Getzlaf, and then take someone that's not on the first power play unit. Do you understand what I mean by that? So basically, if you were to take Rickard Rakeel, Getzlaf, and then take Ben Gibbons, or Brian Gibbons, excuse me, who's never played 1 second on the same line with them, it's pointless. Gibbons isn't going to correlate with them whatsoever. So what you really want to do is try something like taking Adam, Henrique, Silverberg, and then also Getzlaf, or also Rakeel. And that's how you'll do your trio build. Because, again, when you look up here at their normal lines, Troy Terry and Comatos don't line up with them at all. They don't correlate outside of the first and second lines. So that's the huge correlation factor you're looking for. You want to double down. You want to find them also in their power plays. Now, a good team to point this out with is the Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of this is because they use the exact same pairings over and over and over. Tavares and Marner. Tavares and Marner. Matthews. And he always plays with Marleau. You'll see there. But then Marleau drops down to the second power play unit. Now, one issue I used to have with Toronto was I would take Tavares, Marner, and then Jake Gardiner. And the issue with that is, in terms of correlation, they're going to be playing first minutes with Hainsey and Morgan Riley, not Gardiner. So the likelihood that Gardiner gets on the ice at the same time as Tavares and Marner is possible, but massively unlikely, especially when you consider the possibility of Tavares and Marner getting on the ice at the same time as Morgan Riley, who plays first defense and first defense. And they play first line, first line. You see the correlation there, what I'm getting at. Now, someone that's really interesting on Toronto that I wanted to bring up here is Nazem Kadri. Now, I don't like him at all as a player. I'm sure he's a nice guy, like in the community and stuff, but just not my idea as a teammate ever under any definition. So what ends up happening here, though, is Kadri plays on a line with two guys who do not play power play, period, at all. So the only way you can take Kadri in a GPP card is to stack him with the power play. It's the only way. Other than that, you're just taking him random and hoping he's that one guy in the entire slate that gets 3 goals. So I'm just trying to drive home this GPP correlation in hockey and why this is so easy. So basically tonight, one of the biggest stacks is easily going to be these 5 guys. It probably will be the biggest stack in GPPs, simply because getting Kadri in is easily the most important, though, because without him, you're basically just giving away an opportunity to get ahead on people, because no one will be taking Kadri in the expectation there won't be a correlation. There'll be a correlation. Stick with it. I really like this power play tonight. I actually, if you want to drop anyone, I would drop Austin Matthews, because, again, he doesn't play with any of these guys. So in reality, one of my favorite stacks here is either going Tavares, Kadri, Marner, Morgan Riley, filling in with everyone else, or a little bit lesser stack that's a little bit less correlated, Austin Matthews, Patrick Marleau, and Jake Gardiner, because these two play together right here. Those two play together right there. And Gardner's the second pairing, which means he's more likely to be paired with the second line. Now, this obviously doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes the third defensive pairing goes out with the first. It all depends who the other team's forward line is. So, yeah, that's generally what happens, though. So that's just another kind of stack to look at. Look for these correlations in power plays. That's basically what I'm getting at. One of my best friends who's a hockey DFS guru has the rule: if it's not L1 PP1 or L2 PP2, you do not play them. End of story. Doesn't happen unless you're absolutely forced to. But honestly, at the end of the day, when you look through the slate hard enough, you'll find more than enough guys that are in the 4K range that are playing L2 PP2 and things like that, and it isn't that big of a deal. But like I said, tonight, I'm assuming some people listening here are going to be stacking the Leafs. If you don't stack Kadri with the line that you're going with, you're just ruining yourself. It's pointless. So yeah, this is my favorite, these 4, absolutely. But yeah, let's get more into the slate. Give everyone a better idea how this breaks down. So Montreal at Toronto, Boston's at Washington, Calgary's at Vancouver, Anaheim's at San Jose. Now, disclaimer, I'm saving a lot of money for tomorrow night. Yes, there's a couple big GPPs tonight. Tomorrow night's the banger. It's got a huge slate, huge payouts. So my first recommendation is go a little bit low tonight. The teams, this just isn't a really good slate, period, even before we consider it's the first slate of the season. There's a massive break between games here. So we're going to have a pretty big gap between lineups and a lot of time where we're going to have to be committed to this tonight. If you're going to be playing, you're going to have to be up late to make sure you get the goalies. So you may not want to play those goalies. That's up to you. But yeah, that's just something to remember for hockey. These games go late. Again, this is my time in Atlantic, Canada, so it's probably different for you. It may not be even that late for you. It may be early. So, yeah, touche, well played. But, yeah, let's look at this slate. So, generally speaking, the home teams. Again, we want to remember the home teams. These teams are going to get the matchups. So every time they're going to get to choose who to go on the ice against. So when you think about Montreal should absolutely slam Montreal tonight. And I think that's why they're going to be such huge favorites in terms of ownership. Like, yeah, they have 3 guys that are viable in terms of actual NHL caliber players. Like in DFS, these guys aren't putting out. Like, this just not happening. So Gallagher blocks a ton of shots. Tatar's going to have a ton of shots. And Drouin's just generally a low price, high floor player. So those are the 3 players to target for Montreal. Petrie likes to take tons of shots too. So that's something to consider. But yeah, again, we want to look at the power plays and see how this lines up. So I think you can go Gallagher, Tatar, but then Armia kind of stands out like a sore thumb here because he plays with Kotanami and Drouin, but Drouin's up here. So like you could stack those two, and then maybe put Petrie with one of those two. But like it wouldn't make sense to take Gallagher, Armia, and Tartar and not Drouin. You have to take Drouin with that because otherwise you're just hoping that Armia does something by himself while he's literally playing on the same line as Drouin, which is I don't want to say the word stupid. It's a very suboptimal decision to do something like that. So yeah, again, they're not void of floor, and especially in something like cash, when you have these salaries, it really goes a long way. Brendan Gallagher's a little bit too expensive in my opinion there, but like Jeff Petrie 4.9, he's going to get 2.5 worth of shots, and that's basically all you need in cash just to walk with 2.5. So yeah, obviously I think Montreal are going to get schooled, but in cash, in GPP too, a lot of times, as long as you're not picking the goalie on DraftKings, I don't even. Does FanDuel still do minuses for? Where is that? Where's the scoring? Oh well, I know FanDuel used to do minuses for plus minus. I don't think they do that anymore though. But yeah, you don't need to worry about that on here. You don't need to worry that Montreal is going to get beat 5-2. All you should be worrying about is if you can make those 2 goals worthwhile on someone worth that cheap a salary. So yeah, Toronto should be, like I said, the target tonight. Excuse me. Lots of stacking opportunities. When you compare them to the entire slate, they're a little bit expensive. Generally speaking, this is what I call the Pittsburgh Penguins strategy in hockey. And the way it works is that when you're the home team and you have 2 centers that are absolutely obscenely talented, you generally just take the second line center because the first line center most of the time is going to be matched up with the really good players of the other team. That second line center is rarely matched up against very good players in the other team. So it's just a high variance play. So like I said, you'll hear me talk about it a lot throughout the season. I call it the Penguin strategy. Basically just blindly pick, especially in cash, the second line forward on a two center team, and you're going to be fine every single time because he's going to have the matchup all night. And even if he doesn't get the primo matchup, you'll still have an excellent matchup because the other team will be doing everything they can to get the proper matchup. So yeah, I like Austin Matthews for cash night. I think he makes a lot of sense. In wingers for Toronto, again, I don't like too much for cash here. I think there's better options across the slate, but yeah, if you're looking for something desperate, again, stacking is very viable in cash. It's very much recommended. So if you're going to play anyone with Austin Matthews, I would probably try and get Morgan Riley in with them. Just a simple 2-player stack. Morgan Riley's still going to be the #1 defenseman on that team, which is kind of sad. But yeah, there's a large likelihood the top line in Toronto will still be matched up with the second line in numerous circumstances. And if that even doesn't happen, we can still kind of hedge on the fact that they could hook up in power play. And even then, we're in cash, and we don't need them to hook up. We just need them to do good. Hooking up is just a better outcome for everyone. And, you know, Garden is still there too at 4.7K. I don't think he's the worst cash play. But honestly, I wouldn't mind going to like Brendan Gallagher or Petrie before Gardner, especially Petrie he's just guaranteed way more shots. But in terms of goalies, Frederik Andersen's probably going to be your goalie tonight for numerous reasons. They're massive favorites. They're at home. The Leafs generally allow one of the highest shot counts in the entire league. Frederik Andersen consistently has one of the highest save counts in the league. So, yeah, he's probably going to be one of your number one keepers in either format tonight. The win looks pretty safe. And he is the most expensive. It's too bad. But, yeah, I don't see a lot of other viable there goes my soccer, goalie plays this slate outside of Frederik Andersen. So I'll probably be rolling with him pretty heavily and just hoping he keeps it under 2. And that's generally all, especially for cash. That's all you'll need this slate. There's always more for Carey Price, and especially this season in GPP, he's going to have the opportunity to make 40 saves a game. And in the case that Toronto don't score on him, he's going to finish 6 to 8 points without any problems. And then from 7K, like, it's hard to deny that. So, yeah, that's something to consider for sure. But I'll be going to Anderson way more often. Moving on to Boston and Washington. Now, the issue here with Boston is that they're really hurt across the board. Bergeron's probably not going to play. Let's take an updated look in today. He should be good to go. I don't know. I've read some things stating otherwise, that he's a lot worse for wear than and he's going to be pushing it tonight. But, yeah, the Boston number 1 line of Marchand, Pastrnak, and Bergeron's easily the top-rated line in the league. I'm just not so sure how hardcore I want to go against Washington when Washington's at home. Coming off they're going to be hosting the Cup banner. I think Washington has some incredible options for either format, especially if Tom Wilson is out. They're going to have someone step up here. Let's even take a look at the Washington lines. They may even have it updated already. So Brett Conley will be pushing up, which is still fine. Because he usually plays some power play minutes too. Yeah, exactly. So he's viable now too. So, like, Washington's super, super viable tonight. Obviously, going up against the Bruins isn't the most ideal circumstance. This isn't the same Bruins team in past years. They're very different. I'm not only saying that because I know they traded McQuaid, but, like, they're just not the same team. You can tell by very quickly looking at their lines. Who? He was around last year. Who? Like, Heinen isn't a number 2 playoff line winger. I guess that's really poorly said. Sorry. But, like, yeah, this just isn't the same depth Bruins that people have known in the past. So their first power play unit is still going to be elite. There's no question. But, like, David Backes isn't a power play player. He's a penalty killer. So it's just that's the kind of – they're very flat this year. I think Washington could easily handle this just as much in tune as Toronto could handle Montreal, especially when you consider their salaries. Ovechkin is super, super obtainable whenever you play Orlov or Niskanen. Niskanen's probably my favorite defender player of the entire slate at only 3.6K. That's almost cash lockable. Let's make sure he's still playing. Like, maybe DraftKings. See, that's the thing with Niskanen. He's always this cheap. Yeah, like, first line. Yeah, okay. Yeah, first line, second line. Like, there's no reason whatsoever not to play Niskanen at 3.6K. It doesn't even matter who he's playing against. 3.5 points is absolutely in play from that salary. That's really hard to turn down. I also like Orlov, stacking them together in GPPs because they're both going to put out 2 to 3 points without too much issue as a floor. Now, their ceiling may be slightly hindered in comparison to guys like Carlson or Orlov, or Orlov again, Carlson or Burns. So I'm not sitting here telling you that their ceiling is elite or something, but at the same time, when you spend only 7K on 2 defenders, you're going to be able to afford Ovechkin. You're going to be able to afford all sorts of other salaries, like the huge Leaf stack. Niskanen is almost a necessity if you're looking to stack the Leafs tonight, just salary-wise. You're just going to need it. So, yeah, I'm not crazy about Holtby, but again, at home, it's really hard to turn down, even against – if Washington is looking as injured as they are, it's going to be hard to say no to Holtby from that salary. But, yeah, I think a Washington 5-2 win is very much in play, but it's probably going to be closer to like a 3-1 win. but I think Washington's probably going to take this. Calgary at Vancouver. What a burn crap of a game. There's options, but I'm just not sure how good they are because they're not very good teams. Especially Calgary away from home is really bad. The one, probably my favorite stack for GPP this slate is I want to make sure it's still here in Calgary first before I go touting it because you never know coming into the final. Yeah, exactly. They changed. Okay. So these are the lines for today. I read this earlier. These are the confirmed lines for tonight. They did this in practice. Okay. What I was stacking, and now I'm going to switch to James Neal's probably my top forward play of the entire slate. 5.5K is not enough money for the player that's going to shoot the puck as much as he does. And Vancouver's not very good. Their goaltenders are atrocious. So, yeah, I have no problem with James Neal. I think the rest of the Flames are a little bit too pricey, especially Gaudreau, especially Monahan. But, like, when you get down to the Derek Ryans, hey, Leaf Stack, how's it going? Oh, hey, 8Ks everywhere. I don't think I can fit enough of you in. Like, that's super easy to fill out a card with. Super, super easy. So, yeah. Yeah. Great values there. I think this is definitely more of a GPP look. But if you take that away, there's your cash structure. Like there's a cash build. A great start for a cash build. So again, I excuse me, I don't like the Flames or the Canucks in terms of overall production. There's lots to be had here though in both teams. I'm staying away from the goalies. I think TJ Brody's way too cheap. Way too cheap. He always is. Same as Niskanen. He's got the Niskanen salary issues for whatever reason. He's always way cheap, and you'll still get two. Hampton is interesting to me because he was sick on the Carolina Hurricanes, but he doesn't get the power play time. So you just can't take that. Like I said, I follow my buddy's rule, and it pays off. Line 1, line 2, PP1, PP2. If they aren't on those lines, you can't take them. So unless you're absolutely stretching the deepest GPP, you can't deal with that. But yeah, like I said, James Neal's really interesting. I think Lindholm's really interesting. That's the first line. That's way too cheap. Playing with Johnny Hockey and Gaudreau, or excuse me, John Hockey and Monahan. So yeah, Elias Lindholm just came over from Carolina with Haffinen. So I don't mind that 4.8K line one. You can get away with it in either format. Definitely prefer GPP though. But yeah, that's really my Calgary takes. I think they're a little bit too expensive in their high end. Like Giordano's too expensive. Monahan and Johnny Hockey are too expensive. But Derek Ryan, James Neal. You really can't go wrong with these salaries right there. It's too bad that Lindholm doesn't play with them. You could probably get away with the Gaudreau, Monahan, Lindholm stack just because Lindholm's cheap enough. Avoid Matthew Tkachuk. Just doesn't have the offensive upside, and he's broken in terms of correlation. So here he plays with Frolik and Backlund, and Frolik and Backlund aren't even in the power play structure. So yeah, there's nothing to stack Tkachuk with. If you take him in the power play, it's basically saying every time he's playing even strength, he's useless to you because he's not correlating with everyone in GPP. So yeah, that's generally the way to look at Calgary this slate. Like I said, I think this is really sneaky. I think Neal and Derek Ryan, and even if you want to put Brody in with that too, I think that'd be really sneaky because Brody's going to produce no matter what on the first line like that. But in terms of Vancouver, they're kind of coming into their post-Sedin phase here. So there's a lot of question marks. I think Edler's always okay for cash, but yeah, 5.2 is just no thank you. I think on the other hand, Del Zotto has been a cash viable player for seasons. And so he was on Philly, obviously, a little bit different now. Or was he on the Rangers last? I know he was on both recently. No, it was with Vancouver last year. Played the full season too. Touche. Rob, get yourself straightened out here, kid. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, I won't lie. I didn't look as deep into Vancouver as I did other teams. I know Stretcher last season was obviously a decent cash play, some games too. He was getting some interesting minutes in terms of power plays, things like that. But yeah, there just isn't a lot to look at here. Like, Elias Peterson's the only guy that really catches my eye, and that's because he has a lot of hype around him. Like, we know what we're getting with this top line, but even if they get matched up against Derek Ryan and James Neal, am I supposed to think James Neal can't score on them? It's like it's still going to happen as far as I'm concerned. And like, yeah, their defense again is really broken apart because, like, there's no Delzato anywhere in there. It's Derek Pouliot, who plays literally the last defensive role in the team, and Globkin, who stacks with Peterson and Eriksson. And I guess Eriksson's there, but no Pedersen. And this, like I said, I may just take a solo shot with him because he's in such a viable spot and he is so cheap. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, I thought he was 400 or 4,000, excuse me. Yeah, 4.7. So yeah, I'm not really crazy in game stacking this game because I don't think it has the ceiling as other games. Like a Washington-Toronto stack would have a ceiling like 10 goals. Vancouver will be lucky to score 4 goals if they're like having the game of their life. So yeah, we know what we're getting. Just a little bit too expensive for me, considering when we can get just cheaper options, and they're going to put up the same floor without a problem. And yeah, jumping into the last game here, San Jose is expected to win the Cup this year. It's tough because they've been so hot and cold over the years that it's just really hard to believe that this will finally be the year. They've had so many great teams in the past. And it's like there's really no reason to pay up for those two in either format. Because, like I said, Niskanen's going to do the exact same thing for the same, like, literally you're going to need 12 and 14 from them to get the same kind of production Niskanen can put out with just a decent game. So, like, you'll literally need them to go absolutely ham. Now, raw points is obviously a good thing, but I don't think raw points will be that hard to come by in the Toronto-Washington game at all. So I just don't see a lot of reason paying up for defenders like that. You can, especially in cash, take one or the other. But like, I would rather just, even with Lasix at 5K, like, wow, has he ever scored 4 points? Like, once there against Vegas in April. Like, yeah, I guess he had a couple okay. Like, sure, if you want 2 points, but like, that's not something to pay 5K for. Niskanen is going to give you 2 points for 3.6K. So yeah, that's just the point I'm trying to drive home. They're really expensive, and like, the lines aren't great either. Very disjointed lines where it makes it really hard to stack. Like Pavelski and Thornton, and then Mayer, and then Pavelski, Thornton, Couture. But then Couture is playing with LeBlanc and Hurdle, who LeBlanc isn't even on the power play. So it's like it's really complicated to stack these names. Really complicated. One of the few ways you can go about doing is maybe Donskoy and Kane, and know they're going to be on the ice together all the time. Maybe Thornton and Pavelski, if you're feeling like paying up into lots of ownership, like they'll still be really highly owned because they're at home. So it's like I'm not sure about that. I'm just not sure about I still think the Sharks are going to win, but not like the Leafs are going to win or like the Capitals are going to win. So I'm just not as crazy about it. They definitely are hammers, though. Make no mistake. And like, that's a pretty good price for Joe Thornton for someone who's playing 1-1 at home. That's a really good price. I'll probably end up taking that in cash, just hoping to get point upside. I don't expect him to put out a ton of like peripherals for floor, but yeah, that's really hard to deny 1-1. Yeah, I'll take that. It's Joe Thornton. 4.3K sounds good. In cash, again, like all you have to do is just solo these guys. In cash, you don't need the correlations. You just need everyone to get your points, and then that one guy you take, you're expecting to get a ton of points to get a ton of points. Because like Anaheim still do have some things going for them. Cam Fowler is always worth 2 points. Lindholm is probably a little bit too cheap. Montour is probably too cheap considering he plays power play. And first line, second line. So yeah, Montour is probably too cheap too, at 3.8, and then you can Niskanen, pair that with Niskanen. Anderson, like that's a lot of money left. 5.8 is still a lot of money left. Like Rakeel, like line one. Oshie in a great game. Brendan Gallagher blocks more shots and has probably one of the better floors in the entire slate. Like literally you can get almost any you can even get in Ovechkin if you want, and then just take a kind of couple slighter risks as you get further down. But like even then, like how much are you really risking on some of these names like Brett Conley? Like there's a stack for you. Like that's even a stack that can work out. And like, I don't know. I'm sorry for rambling on and taking a long time with this. This video is probably run long enough, and I'm probably drawing enough patience for everyone wondering why I've taken this long. But yeah, I don't mind. Martin Jones he was so bad last season, especially at home. He was literally like so bad. So I just had a pretty good playoffs. Yeah, I'm not interested in either goaltenders here. My goaltender will definitely come from the early game, which will kind of help with like the starters later on, not having to worry about which goalie starts. But I know a lot of people are going to be on the goalies in this game. I really can't stress enough not doing it. I know it says a low. I'm assuming it's a low goal total because both the teams are garbage. They're just as likely to score 3 or 4 on each other because they're garbage as only getting like a 1-1, 2-1 game. And I like Calgary. I'm not gonna lie. I like the Calgary attack. They're too cheap, and Vancouver is really bad. And at the end of the day, Vancouver is going to be trying to stop Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan. They're not going to have the opportunity every single time to get in there against James Neal and Derek Ryan, the third line pairing. And again, you can very easily start stacking like Toronto around this, Washington around that, get San Jose around this. Like this is probably my favorite GPP stack of the slate. It was Backlund whenever James Neal was playing with Backlund all week. But Derek Ryan's power play, I got no problem with that. And like there are guys in Anaheim too. Adam Henrique is kind of the Nazem Kadri of Anaheim. If you're stacking Anaheim, you have to put Henrique in. Otherwise, you're just cutting an opportunity out from yourself because Rakeel and Getzlaf, Silverberg, and Henrique are all in there. And even Cam Fowler, too, the number one, he's line 2. So, like, just not taking Henrique is like making things more complicated, less correlated. So, just, he's the Kadri of the Ducks. If you're stacking the Ducks, you got to take Henrique just for correlation purposes. But yeah, let's really quickly jump over here because I think there's still some things to look at, too. Now, for anyone that is on Rotopros and on our Slack, I won't be doing FanDuel. In terms of this year, my skeletons will all be DraftKings. So, yeah, it's just something to consider. Again, I think there's a lot of really light pricings. The scoring's different over here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything I think because 100% honestly, I'm still learning FanDuel hockey. I know DraftKings hockey like the back of my hand. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now. But FanDuel, I'm still just getting into with a lot of my for anyone who missed my earlier episodes way back in the early soccer season, FanDuel and myself had a discrepancy of whether or not my province in Canada actually existed. It's recognized now. Things are all good. I'm back playing on FanDuel. Thank God. Things have been working out this year. But I just think there's a lot of good takes, and I like how FanDuel gives you the line projections too. so you can get a much better idea of who's supposed to go where and make stacks easier on the fly. But again, like, yeah, he's way more expensive over here, obviously, because he should be. He's just so underpriced on DraftKings, it's obscene. But yeah, FanDuel is probably one of those sites where, or excuse me, hockey is one of those games where you can literally just compare the two sites and pick from that because they are so similar in terms of production and scoring, that especially without the plus minus now. So just, circle through the names, try and find guys that are grossly underpriced on one site compared to the other, and rock that a little bit. Like, I bet you, Adam Henrique's way down here at 5.2. Pettersson in Vancouver, 4.6, way cheap. Like, I bet Brett Conley over here is probably on Washington is probably one of the cheapest players of the entire slate. Yeah, 3.5K. Are you serious? Like, yeah. No reason not to do that, especially on FanDuel. Like, that should be one of the safer plays of the entire slate at that salary, at just the correlation minutes. And again, 4.2K is just too cheap. It's just too cheap. So yeah, I hope that gives everyone a really good idea. We can check out hockey tiers really quick because I think there is something to be had there too. Loading. Come on, there we go. Okay, so yeah, I think literally this is the beautiful thing in this. A lot of times, tier one, you can literally just click any of those three. They're all cash plays. I probably prefer Matthews just as an ownership pivot, and that he'll probably do better than Ovechkin, but Tavares is obviously really good too. Second tier, this is where you probably want to use one of the San Jose defenders and justify that crazy salary in cash. In GPP, probably Johnny Hockey is where I would look. I just don't think Boston are that hot going into Washington tonight. They can be, but again, it's like without Bergeron, you're not able to stack all three anyways, so it's just not really something I'm looking at, where so far out of these two tiers, we're still able to stack any of these three names. So we can just tag Johnny Hockey along those and hope Monahan pops up here in something useful. So, okay, we got Marner. So, again, just to go back and confirm, Marner plays with, oops, wrong one, John Tavares. So, if we're going to take Marner here, you kind of have to take John Tavares. If you're not taking John Tavares here, there's no real point in taking Mitch Marner here. You're better off taking a Sean Monahan, stacking with John. This is cash too. These stacks are incredibly important in cash. You may just want to stack with Monahan, or even take a Kuznetsov and hope we can catch something later on here. I don't see much point to Couture because he doesn't have a lot of stacking options. He could be useful in cash. Yeah, you know what? He's probably one of the better cash options now that I'm thinking about out of this entire crew. I would still prefer Monahan probably, but yeah, you can get away with Couture. I think Kuznetsov's more of a GPP play. And Marner's if you're stacking with tier one. Tier four. Rakil's probably the cash play with Gallagher, one of the other. Gallagher will have a better peripheral output, but Rakil has way more upside. Like with line one against a team that's probably going to concede. I don't know how much Toronto's going to concede this slate, so there just isn't a lot of upside. Pavelski's good too, especially in cash. I probably wouldn't take him in GPP. I suppose, you know what, you could probably in GPP start stacking San Jose at that point. So yeah, it wouldn't be the worst idea just to stack San Jose. Oh, I didn't look at San Jose, yes. In terms of the last few minutes, sorry. Kane plays with, yeah, nobody, even on the power play. Useless. So yeah, Kane's kind of pointless in either cash or GPP from this standpoint. I know he was doing well, but like there's no stacking, and there's just better floors in both Gallagher and Rakeel and Pavelski even. So yeah, that's tier 4. Tier 5. Good cash options all around, good GPPs all around. You can take Carlson in cash. You can take Giordano in cash. Is probably, even though he doesn't have as much upside as Carlson, but he definitely has more floor. I think Carlson has the upside to get this slate, so I don't have any issue with him. But Giordano's there. Kadri would be GPP again. You don't really have to worry about the stacking this time so much. I would actually fade Kadri in tiers. I think that makes more sense. Because taking Morgan Riley is just the infinitely better play because he instantly stacks with either Matthews or Tavares instantly, where Kadri only does in the power play. And again, James Neely, everyone knows how I feel about him. And Duran's only really useful when he's not expensive. Since his salary doesn't matter, there's not really much point in this because he doesn't have the floor and really the ceiling to compare. Tier 6 really quickly here. It's probably got to be Getzlaf or Edler for cash. Backstrom doesn't have the kind of floor we need, and Marlowe doesn't have the kind of production we need. Not enough floor, and Mayer isn't a cash play, period. So it'll have to be one of those two, and you can stick probably Backstrom, stack him with someone else. You could probably make a really comfortable Washington stack too. I bet you Oshie's in here somewhere, really close. Yeah, there he is, exactly. So. That's interesting. Just by himself, chilling. I'd probably like to see an Oshie Backstrom stack. Maybe a Silverberg Anaheim. No, see, the problem with that is that him and Henry literally play together all the time, and they're on the same tier, so you can't stack them together. It's kind of pointless to take them then at all because you can't stack them and they're only together. So those two could be safely faded in tiers because they just don't correlate, or they sub-correlate, or sub, what's the word I'm thinking of? Non-correlate. Sub-non-correlate each other. There we go. Sure, why not? But yeah, the rest you can probably actually stack Lindholm with the Johnny Hockey Monahan stack quite easily, actually. Yeah, I would have no. That's probably one of my favorite GPP stacks on here because if I remember correctly, it isn't even really on any other serious spaces. Where's Monahan sticking at? I can't remember. Do we even see Monahan yet? Yeah, we did. Where do we see him? It's on top. There he is. So yeah, that's a really solid stack right there. And at the same time too, it doesn't look like it bites into any Toronto stacks. Simon's not going to be in. So yeah, you can probably do Tavares or Matthews to at least Morgan Riley here. And 5, yeah, you can get Morgan Riley into. So yeah, that works really well, really well for a Leaf stack if you're chasing that. But yeah, where was I here? Yeah, I like TJ Oshie a lot. Probably he's probably my favorite play for either format from this tier. Do that stack with Backstrom and you're set, as far as I'm concerned. You'll be absolutely flying. And then the final tier, probably just going to want to take Jeff Petrie for his massive shot count. Backlund's more of a GPP. He doesn't really stack with anyone anymore since Neil's gone now. Frolik and Kachuk. Yeah, no thanks. Sorry, I'm not really interested in that. And the rest are kind of just like random GPP fillers. Cam Fowler you can get away with in cash. It's not anywhere close to the same floor as Petrie, but he's just more consistent and arguably on a better team. And yeah, that's basically it. You could probably take Troy Terry as a GPP swing if you want. There's no one else beyond him, that's for sure. But yeah, I really don't have too many other takes here today. I want to thank anyone who literally watched this entire video. I really do appreciate it. I know it droned on a while, but that's what these are going to be about. I'm covering literally every square here for the entire day. So, yeah, as we get going, there won't be as many going over how to play parts. So, like learning how to play tiers, learning how to play hockey. These videos will get shorter. But I want to thank everyone. Rad Rob Diamond on Twitter. Sir Robert and all the main sites, and I'm over on Rotor Grinders too. Come over, get on Rotor Pros with us. It's been absolutely flames, especially soccer has been pretty crazy. Feel free to check our Twitter. You can see we try and post every time we get some big wins over there, so everyone can get a good idea what's going on. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Get liking, subscribing to us here on YouTube. Share this. Hit us up on Twitter, please. Make sure to get at us here. Any questions, let me know. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Good luck Wednesday. Have a great hockey season. Started off right. Let's finish off Champions League proper today. The match day 2. Got some huge tickets. I think I got 8 tickets for massive events here tonight. So hit me up on Twitter. Any questions? Thanks a lot. Lots of love, everyone. Good luck. All the best. I'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.